Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today, it's the old Switcher2, because we are bringing back that moniker, but as a title for this episode, instead of our little incidental podcast that we had going on for a while that was completely Switch-related, because that's what we're going to be talking about. The Switch 2 had its direct, its full unveiling, and there's a lot of information that came out, and that's what we're going to be covering. And because we knew that this was going to be the case, last week we did 2 weeks for our On the Horizon segment, so we wouldn't have to get into that. This week we said we're just not even going to bother with any of the trailers that came out. Like we said, we'd only do it if it was like a huge, absolutely massive trailer that we just needed to discuss because it was so timely. Nothing of that sort came out. So we're just going to jump straight in to the Switch 2 Nintendo Direct. And I'm going to kick things off here with just kind of like the base information about the system itself and its accessories and all that stuff before we get into the games. Let's get that stuff out of the way first. So, most importantly, the release date. It's going to be coming on Thursday, June 5th, a day before my prediction, but
yeah, you were right.
That's good. I mean, I did not think they'd release on a Thursday.
Right, yeah, we all thought it was like a Friday. You know what? Because I think Nintendo moved their release date to Thursday. And they did this a while ago. I completely forgot about it. So it makes sense. But I mean, I'm going to give that one to you. You were close enough. So I'm giving you that point.
The next part is interesting because this was not in the Direct. And my assumption is, like, from what was said, kind of, I mean, it's pretty obvious, I think, but my assumption is that they didn't really know the price at the time they were recording the Direct.
Oh, maybe.
And they had to record and process it and do all that stuff. It's a video, so it's not like they can just, like, last minute go, oh, make it this much, you know? So I think that they basically probably had the video done days before the stream aired, and they hadn't yet decided on price yet. Maybe because they were worried about tariffs, maybe because of other things, you know? But it was very strange that the price just wasn't in the presentation itself. We found ourselves, like, looking for that, hunting down that information afterwards, you know?
It was posted in a press release after the Direct.
Which press releases you can update in a second, you know? Like, it's not like a video. It's very different, you know? But the official price is $449.99. That is the base unit, core, nothing else. Or you can get, for $500, you can get it with Mario Kart, which I'm jumping the gun a little bit here. With Mario Kart Worlds, I should say. I'm jumping the gun a little bit here because we haven't talked about Mario Kart Worlds yet. But that's a saving of $30 because Mario Kart Worlds, for some reason, is $80.
Yeah.
Should we just jump into Price Gate right now?
We should get Price Gate out of the way at this point because you did bring up price. I'm not happy. A lot of people aren't happy about this. The internet is on fire. This Price Gate has, if you look at discussion, Price Gate is currently dominating all the discussion about Switch 2 at this point. $80 games. It's crazy, but it happened, and I knew it was going to happen eventually. I knew that price creep was going to get there. I didn't think Nintendo would be the ones to bring us there. I thought it was...
There's a lot of inflation going on in the world
thought
right
it was
now.
Going to be somebody else to be the first to do it. That's the thing. So I was kind of shocked. To see Mario Kart there for $80 is insane.
There's some other games in that price range too, but all of those have like caveats attached to them. And Mario Kart's the only one where it's like purely that new game is $80. The other ones all have some kind of caveat.
There's some Nintendo Switch Edition games that are like $80, but then if you reason it out, it's like that's how much the game costs on Switch plus the cost of DLC. Like if you have like Kirby and the Forgotten Land Switch Edition is $80. $80 on like retail websites right now. But like if you bought Kirby and the Forgotten Land, if you go and buy it for Nintendo Switch right now, you're paying $60. I guarantee you that update with the extra DLC content on the eShop is going to cost you $20.
There's also some like weird bits of uncertain information. Like there was something that came out that was saying like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild's like upgrade patches were included if you have Nintendo Switch Online with Expansion Pass.
Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass does give you the Zelda upgrades for free.
Yeah, there was nothing that said that that wasn't the case with other
No, they didn't
ones.
say it, but they didn't announce it for other ones, so you can't...
So it just makes it kind of confusing, basically.
Yeah, they didn't say like all, because like we don't know, it could just be the Zelda ones.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance it might be first-party Nintendo stuff, you know, and not cover third-party stuff, or it could just literally just be the Zelda games, you know? But it's kind of confusing. At the time we're recording this the day that the presentation happened. There are going to be like Treehouse Live events tomorrow and the next day. There's going to be like in a few weeks a Mario Kart Direct. There's going to be like an interview with like Miyazaki about what's the one? The Duskbloods.
The Duskbloods, yeah.
So there's like all sorts of stuff that's coming out in the days to come that hasn't come out yet at the time we recorded this. So when you listen to this might already be like a resolved issue, but at the time we're recording this, it is not.
I will also add that games like Mario Kart costing $80 sting a little more coming from Nintendo because unlike other publishers,
never go on sale.
They don't go on sale or go on sale very often. And if they do, it's not like a huge discount. It's like $20. So like if you're waiting for Mario Kart to go on sale, the best you can hope for is $60.
Yeah. Or you buy the bundle.
You buy the bundle,
and you get it for
the
50,
Switch and the digital
basically.
copy, and you get it for $50.
Yeah, which is still a discount because I mean, if you bought the digital version, I think it's $70.
Probably. Yeah, we don't really have hard confirmation on digital pricing because like the eShop obviously hasn't launched.
Yeah.
It's just wild. I'm not going to say let's sit there and try to defend it. I think like, Nintendo has their reasons. There's volatility in the market right now with the tariffs threatening to tear down our economy.
There is worldwide instability financially.
There's worldwide, financial instability. I think Nintendo is just pricing things to try to insulate themselves as much as possible.
One thing I don't have in my show notes that's kind of interesting is, did you see the whole thing about how there's a Japanese version of the Switch 2 hardware that is region locked?
So in Japan, there's going to be a cheaper Nintendo Switch 2 that is region locked to Japan. They're still going to sell the regular Switch 2 that's not region locked in Japan. You're still going to be able to get a region free Switch 2 in Japan. It's going to be the same price as Switch 2 worldwide, but if you don't mind having a Switch 2 that can just play Japanese games and can just use a Japanese Switch 2 account, it's a much cheaper option.
That shows you that the instability in the global markets is real.
Yes.
Because they moved away from like region locked systems because it was a kind of a passe thing. Like, why are we still doing this? This doesn't make that big of a difference.
Especially with
and now things are so fucking crazy. The markets are so all over the place.
Especially with a portable system, it doesn't make much sense. Because like with the exception of the 3DS, like all of Nintendo's handhelds were region free. 3DS was the first one they locked for no reason.
I miss the days when like region locking, like on the SNES, it was literally like there were just two slots you could just drill in the cartridge.
Yeah, it was just like a different shaped cartridge that was designed to like.
I literally took a hacksaw and cut the slots out into a Japanese cart so it would fit into my. And then other people just literally just took a piece of plastic out of their SNES so that anything would fit in. But yeah, it's just
those were the days.
Yeah, this kind of stuff. The markets. There's worldwide inflation. There's like crazy inflation happening in different countries. It's worse than in other countries. The yen right now is like very, very low. And that's why they're making a cheaper system to reach that audience so that they can still afford it. And they are region locking it specifically so that people in other countries don't take advantage of that.
And I think like as bad as it is, I know like it hurts me to buy games. I'm probably going to buy like less games as a result. or less like brand new games as a result. But it's also like, I think $80 games are here to stay, and not just from Nintendo, but I think like everybody's going to start doing it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, I mean,
one thing I will say, and this isn't really like 100% in defense of game companies that are doing this, like, so no. Please, people at home, don't take it that way. But you have to like consider the way inflation has hit like everything else. Like everyone's like, oh, when it was $50, now it's $60, now it's $70, now they're going to $80. It's like, that's like with decades of time. Compare that to like movie theater prices, you know, like go to your local movie theater ticket prices have increased at a much faster rate.
Well, when you think about like
everything's gone up in price.
Game prices have stagnated for a long time, longer than they should have, because if you go back to the PlayStation 1 era with CDs, new disc games were on average about $40 for a new game. Then you got like $50 games when you
those were like the expensive ones, and then
then you got $50 games when you moved up to GameCube and PS2, and then $60 games when you got to Xbox 360, PS3. Wii games still stayed at $50 because like Wii wasn't like HD, but like Xbox 360 and PS3 they bumped up to $60. Then they kept the games at $60 all through the PS4 and Xbox One generation, and we kind of got like used to games being $60 until the PS5 launched, and they bumped it up to $70.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like the thing, like I'm saying, everything costs more. Fast food, absurdly more than it used to cost. Everything you can buy costs more, with the exception of like a hot dog and soda from Costco or like an Arizona iced tea.
Yeah, an Arizona iced tea.
That's pretty much the only thing that's not gone up in price in like the world, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It's like everything's going to be more expensive. People are going to be hurting in the next few years, unfortunately.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's not just games. Definitely.
And meanwhile, games is one of the most like ballooning in budget industries, you know?
It's just a shame.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's all I have to say about PriceGate.
Yeah.
The bottom line is it sucks.
Yeah, it sucks, but it was inevitable. It's just sad that it's here now and that it's kind of tainting this experience a little bit.
Exactly.
Let's move on to some more specs, okay?
Yeah, let's get to some more positive discussion.
Screen on the system, 7.9-inch LCD, 120 hertz, HDR, and VRR. For those who don't know VRR, it's a less common buzzword than HDR. That means variable refresh rate. That means that the screen could refresh at like, say, 40 frames a second, and then you could lock a game at 40 instead of going like, oh, it only makes sense to lock it at 30 or 60 because if you lock it at something between those, and it's going to be inconsistent because the display refreshes at a certain rate. Well, this means that the display itself can refresh at variable rates. So you could lock it at like a specific frame rate that isn't 30 or 60. So that's what's cool about that. That's good news. 256 gigabytes of storage. That's okay.
That's a lot more than 30.
Sizes have ballooned. Sizes of games have ballooned drastically in that time. So it is a big step up from 32, but not that big of a step up. It still does have expansion. Here's another good news, bad news situation because it's going to be using micro SD Express. That's great news as far as the fact that it's much faster than a traditional micro SDXC card that you would put like in your Switch. This is much, much, much faster, which is great news. Unfortunately, because it relies on having that speed, the system, that's the only kind of card it's going to support. So your old micro SD card in your Switch, not compatible. Any other kind of cheaper micro SD card you can buy, not going to be compatible. So the best bet's probably just to stick with the 256 internal storage until you need more.
Yeah.
And then get a micro SD. I know a lot of people are like, I need to get a micro SD Express at launch. It's like, do you need one at launch? Just get the basic system memory, and then when you start to fill it up and then you need it, it might be cheaper then, you know, like wait a little bit, you know, time it a little bit better. You don't have to get everything you're going to eventually need at the same time. So that's kind of a good news, bad news situation there. You know, it's good that it's going to have faster memory. It's bad that you have to have faster memory. Like it's the only way it works. The dock was showing. It's got fan ventilation, which is cool for me, for dock players. Probably isn't going to matter too much for you, since you play mostly in handheld. But it means that you'll be able to squeeze out some more performance in dock play, which is cool.
I mean, it's just to keep it from overheating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that allows them to clock it higher. you have the Joy-Con mouse mode. This is something that was leaked, and then it was in the trailer kind of in a not so subtle way. Like if it hadn't leaked, we might not have picked up on it, but because it leaked and then saw it in the trailer, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's mouse mode for the Joy-Cons. That was confirmed. They showed it. It's actually pretty prevalent in a lot of the games. It seems to be the key gimmick of the system. What's really interesting is that you're going to be able to use the combination of the mouse with the gyro for like rotation of your angle of your cursor, which is very similar to like if you've ever used like a Wacom tablet and pen. Like some of the better Wacom tablet pens, like it's not just that you're pressing with the pen and you have the degrees of sensitivity on the tip of the pen, but like it can change the thickness of the brush stroke based on like the angle you're holding it at and stuff. So that's like a really kind of cool thing that makes it more than just a mouse, but we've only kind of seen a few examples that aren't particularly crazy or anything.
Mm-hmm.
We found out what the C button does, and it seems to be what most people thought it was. Most people seem to take the C as to mean some kind of chat, communication, something along those lines. That's what it is. It's voice chat, basically, but they're calling it game chat, and it brings up a menu that's got all sorts of cool, like, kind of streaming features.
Nintendo discovers Discord.
Yeah.
Which is what everybody was using for playing online on Switch 1.
Yeah.
Because Nintendo didn't have any of these features.
This looks pretty robust, though. Like, they're actually seem to have put a lot in here. The one concern that I've seen some people bring up is the, like, audio quality if you're using a microphone at a great distance, you know, that's like a tiny microphone built into a system. Like, how good is that going to be?
Right,
One thing to kind of alleviate that a little bit is that NVIDIA made the processor for the Switch, and NVIDIA has a, like, tech specifically for that uses AI to, like, clarify audio. So that's probably how they're able to do it. It probably means it's going to be pretty decent. Maybe not the best, but decent, at least. Better than you'd probably suspect, considering the conditions. You can plug, like, a headset into a controller or the system itself, so hopefully there's kind of, like, other solutions. Maybe there's, like, Bluetooth headsets you can get to. I don't know. But hopefully there's some other solutions available than having to use the mic built into the system. But even if you do have to use the mic built into the system, there seems to be some tech in there that might assist and make that not kind of a end of the world kind of thing. They announced that this whole game chat function, which is going to be like voice chat and screen sharing, and you can even use video with an attachable camera. All of that is going to be dependent on Nintendo Switch Online, but they're going to be offering it for free until March of 2026 so that people get a chance to kind of see if they like it or not. So that's good.
Yeah, I like that. That's fine.
We got Game Share. So this is kind of going back. This is like going back to Wii U tech in one way, but also in a way, ideologically going back to what you could do with like a 3DS or DS, where you could have one person have the cart and everybody else kind of downloads a file from them of like a small portion of the game, and then they can play it multiplayer with only one cart. So it's cool that they're kind of bringing that back, but they're using like Wii U tech for streaming, so there might be some kind of bandwidth issues at play there. But apparently you'll be able to do it for both local and online multiplayer. It has to be built into the game, so not all games are going to be able to do this. It's probably going to take a bit of resources. So really demanding games might not be able to do this, like Cyberpunk might not be able to do this, for example, because it might be a bit too demanding for them to incorporate that. But that's kind of a cool function, a little bit of a money saver if you have a crew of people you get together and play games with. You're going to be able to transfer games from your Switch to your Switch 2 and your save data and everything else directly through your Nintendo account. I guess that's how Sony does it too. So it's not like exactly a new thing there. It's just kind of Nintendo catching up with what everybody else has already been doing, I guess.
Yeah.
2 to 6.5 hour battery life. Doesn't sound great. Actually sounds a little bit higher than the initial life for the OG Switch, though. I think they said 2 to 5 on the original Switch. So still not great battery life, but I think we've kind of all just gotten used to that at this point. Although you're on like an OLED and that has like a higher battery life, huh?
Yeah. It's a thing. I mean, it's a more powerful system. So battery life is going to be like, they didn't come up with like some magic battery that's going to...
It runs off of your Nintendo fandom.
Yes,
the
exactly.
bigger fanboy you are, the longer it lasts.
It's just, it is what it is. You know, you want the power.
Backwards compatibility. So we had that announced at the original reveal trailer, but there was a little asterisk next to it saying there are certain details that we didn't know about. We learned that some games have compatibility issues. Some games it's just because they need certain features that are built into Joy-Cons or because like the Joy-Cons fit into certain accessories that are required for those games, and so the new ones aren't going to work on it. You know, Ring Fit Adventure, for example, stuff like that. Like you need that, like that wheel device thing that comes with it, and you know, Switch 2 Joy-Con doesn't fit in it. So they'd either produce a new one, or you could just use the old Joy-Con, which they're allowing you to do, which is good. That opens up compatibility. The only game that is like completely unoperational is Nintendo Labo Toy-Con 4 VR kit. And that's just because it's not just the Joy-Con, but the base unit itself that fits into the cardboard. And obviously that's not going to work with Switch 2. They would have to make new cardboard for you to have that work. That fits for the Switch 2 rather than the Switch. There are some other games that have some issues. Sounds like they're trying to work on them. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but it's not too terribly many. Most stuff seems to work.
Right.
They showed the Pro Controller. This is our first shot of it. We didn't get to see it in the original trailer release. We got to see it. It's got kind of like a second color tone in it. It's like a lighter gray or something. And it's black with like a lighter gray second tone or whatever. It's got a headphone port on it, and it has paddle buttons, which is kind of interesting. We still don't know if this or the Joy-Con themselves are using Hall effect sticks, as was rumored. Nothing's been confirmed there. So we'll have to wait probably for a teardown before we learn about that.
Oh, yeah.
I had mentioned that there was a camera add-on. It's going to be $50. You can use it both for game chat. So like while you're chatting with somebody, you can have like a little bubble with your head animating as you're making expressions. You know, you get hit by a shell and you're like annoyed or something like that. You know, it's going to show like right next to your cart for the other players to see, like that kind of stuff. They toyed with that a little bit, I think, with like the 3DS, didn't they? With like the Star Fox 64 port, I think. Did something like that using the camera.
Some of that, yeah.
So it's nothing particularly new, but you're going to be able to use this camera. You're also going to be able to use it for like Kinect-like or PSI-like functionality in some games, including Mario Party Jamboree, for example. Mm-hmm. But that's $50 for that. Pretty cheap. It's just like a low-end webcam, basically. Joy-Cons are going to be $90 for a set. That's up from, I believe the MSRP was $80 at launch for the Switch 1's Joy-Cons. You can usually find them cheaper, but when they first came out, the MSRP was like $80 for those. And a dock, which I don't think it's been explicitly stated that a dock comes with the Switch 2, but it seems like it does. Like there's no reason for us to think it won't.
What? Of course the dock comes with the Switch 2.
I'm just saying I don't think there's been anything that's explicitly stated it does, but it seems obvious it will. Like I agree, like it's coming with it, but like they haven't explicitly stated it. But if you want to get a second dock, it's going to be $110. That sounds like a lot. Just for some perspective though, the original dock was also overpriced. It was $90 for a second original dock, but you could usually get them cheaper. I think I got my second dock for like $60, like brand new, just, you know, happened to be cheaper. But yeah, those are kind of like the base things, and then we can start getting into more of the fun stuff now. Let's start with NSO.
Big update for NSO. Again, I gotta put you on the board because your prediction for NSO, you said GameCube and Dreamcast. You got half correct. You called it, kinda.
I think Dreamcast we pretty much all called GameCube, didn't we, though? Like that, we pretty much all thought GameCube.
So give us all a point there. Give us all a point for GameCube because that's what happened. It was kinda obvious. That was like the next console in line if Nintendo was going to add like anything else. Mm-hmm. Like I guess it could have been DS, but
DS starts getting into tricky territory because of the screens, you know?
Yeah, they didn't
really
have
ways around it, but it's still tricky.
They didn't really have like anything else from like a first party standpoint. Yeah, super happy to see this though.
Yeah, we got 3 confirmed games that are going to be launching alongside. By the way, this GameCube NSO channel is going to launch with the Switch 2, so it's going to come out on the same day.
I would say this is Switch 2 exclusive, by the way. If you have a Switch 1, you are not getting GameCube games.
This also requires you to have the expansion pass.
Yeah, you have to have the expansion pass on Switch 2. So if you don't have the expansion pass, you're not getting it. If you don't have the expansion pass, you have a Switch 1, you are double not getting this.
Not only are you not getting it, but they're going to your house and taking your GameCube games.
Yes, from you. So yeah, for GameCube games, you have to have a Nintendo Switch 2. This is similar to what they did with the Virtual Console on the 3DS when they added SNES games to 3DS Virtual Console. You needed a new 3DS model to get the SNES games.
Yeah. They announced 3 games that are going to be launching with the system. We don't really know for sure if these are the only 3 games that are going to launch when the system hits NSO, but so far that seems to be the case. And those are The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2, and F-Zero GX. So just some real...
Honestly, just some amazing killer apps to like launch this.
Yeah,
like,
seriously.
Those are like three of my like top played GameCube games of all time.
Oh, if you were to like make a list of like the top 10 most important GameCube games that you would need on like a NSO GameCube lineup, those 3 would all be on there.
Those 3 would be there.
It'd be towards the top.
It is interesting. Wind Waker kind of had me thinking, is this the reason there's no Wind Waker HD on Switch?
Well, I saw it and I was like, okay, so we're never getting the Wind Waker HD.
Yeah.
It's just kind of sad. I'd prefer to have the Wind Waker HD.
I would prefer to have it too, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
And Soul Calibur 2, I'd prefer them do like a remake of Soul Calibur 2 with all.
I would love a remake
because they already did that. It just doesn't have Link because that was exclusive to the GameCube one. But if they did it for the Switch 2, then they'd be able to do that, and it would look better and everything.
Link in it. Yeah. But at least now we have Soul Calibur 2 with Link on a modern platform, so we can be happy about that.
And F-Zero GX.
F-Zero's GX, yeah. Everybody's favorite F-Zero game. Still waiting on a new one, but I'll take this.
Yeah.
I'll take this, absolutely. Then they did like a reel of future upcoming Nintendo GameCube games with some interesting ones, because it's not like the obvious ones. The obvious ones would be like, Super Mario Sunshine is coming. You know, you got Fire Emblem Path of Radiance.
Luigi's
which
Mansion
is like
an obvious
Luigi's
one.
Mansion. But then you have stuff like Chibi Robo, which is like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness and Pokemon Coliseum.
Those are going to be interesting because those were games that connected to something else. So we're going to have to see how they do that. Didn't they do that with something else already? Because they did it with the Coliseum for the N64, right?
Yeah, the Stadium. Like, those games connected, and they just were like, oh, well, these games can't connect to anything like the originals could.
They just gave you, like, dummy Pokemon or something?
You have rental Pokemon. It wasn't really any different than, like, if you bought the game on N64, but you didn't have a copy of Pokemon Red or Blue.
Hopefully they rework that, because there is, like, that whole, what is it called, Pokemon Bank or something? They should just rework it to fit that in.
Pokemon Home. And I was thinking about, is Pokemon Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness on Nintendo Switch Online? Are they going to be able to connect to Pokemon Home? Because that would be interesting.
That's would like be a good way around it. You just kind of, I mean, they're already doing stuff like adding online multiplayer and another shit to these games already, so, and they're upscaling them, so might as well do that too, you know?
Yeah,
and I never understood when they didn't do that with the N64 one. Hopefully they do that with the GameCube one. But it doesn't really matter to me because I'm not a Pokemon player. The full list of games is Super Mario Sunshine, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, Super Mario Strikers, Chibi Robo, Luigi's Mansion, and Pokemon Coliseum. Those are the other ones besides the 3 that are launching.
By the way, like, RIP to the secondhand GameCube market, because these games are all, for the most part, super expensive.
I think Fire Emblem is like
absurdly. It's like a $400 game or something.
I remember I really wanted Fire Emblem on the GameCube, and I was just dead broke when it came out. And by the time I had enough money for it, it was like $200 already.
Yeah, I didn't buy it when it was new.
Yeah.
And I never saw like a used copy of it anywhere. Literally, when I was like looking for games I wanted to get for GameCube and stuff, I would go to like GameStops, or I'd go to used game store, I'd look through the GameCube section. Never any Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. Yeah. Never found it.
Yeah, I never played the GameCube or the Wii one, because the Wii one was like a direct sequel, so I didn't want to play it.
Yeah, I never played either of them because I couldn't get my hands on them. Couldn't find them.
I'm excited for this. This is a game that I actually really wanted to play when it first came out. Didn't get the chance to, and then it just became absurdly expensive. So I'm really excited about that one.
Same. I'm excited to finally be able to get a chance to play that one.
I'm sure there'll be other GameCube games along the line too, as they're just going to drip feed them out over the next like 40 years.
I hope we get Eternal Darkness. Eternal Darkness is a really cool game.
Yeah, Eternal Darkness would be good. I think Melee is probably a must.
Melee is like a lock. That's a lock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rogue Squadron.
Oh, if they could get the Rogue Squadron games, that'd be good. If they could work out a deal with like EA and Disney to make that happen.
Yeah, that would be that. I think that's like going to be a big deal at a direct at some point in the future.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, so that is the NSO GameCube. The one last thing to add to that is that there's a GameCube controller coming out, because of course there is.
Yeah, there is, because they released one for like every console they add to the service. Looks cool.
Looks like a GameCube controller, but it's got some extra buttons.
It's a wireless GameCube controller. It has the C button for chat, so don't worry. You can still press the C button while you're playing.
It's in a bit of an awkward place, but it's there.
Yeah. That's cool. I like it. I'm happy with that announcement.
Let's go to Switch2 Edition games. So they announced that there's 3 types of games you can play on the Switch 2. There are Switch 2 games, there are old Switch games, and then there are Switch 2 Edition games. So these are basically games that have patches that you can download in conjunction with the game, with the Switch 1 game, or you can buy, some of them are going to be available at retail as well.
Yeah, with the patches installed. So these are just Switch 1 games with enhancements for Switch 2. Not really what you would call cross-gen games, because they're not like beefing up the graphics or anything.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting higher resolutions, you're getting better frame rates, and then
some of them you're getting whole new DLC content basically.
Yeah, some of them you're getting DLC content. And I'm guessing, because the DLC content that they have for it uses features exclusive to Switch 2, so, that's why you can't get that DLC. But it is interesting that they are, for some of these games, like Kirby and Mario Party, they're making Switch 2 exclusive DLC. That's kind of like a wrinkle I didn't consider.
Yeah. It's also worth noting that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the upgrades for those, if you already own those on Switch, are going to be free with NSO. So if you have NSO, I think it's NSO with expansion pass you'll get that upgrade for free on those 2 games.
Yeah.
We don't know if that's all that's happening with.
And then with the Zelda games, you get the frame rate resolution and HDR with the Zelda games.
You know what? There's something I missed. You have to tell me if you saw this, because I didn't. Does the Zelda one come with the DLC if you didn't have it? Like, if you buy the retail one.
They did not mention that.
Yeah, that's getting interesting. Because, Tears of the Kingdom didn't have DLC, but
I forget. Breath of the Wild did. And it does not mention if that has the DLC on it.
This is a confusing direct with stuff like that. There's little pieces of information missing all over the place in this direct.
I would assume that if you bought, not the upgrade in the eShop, obviously, but if you bought the retail, Nintendo Switch Edition Breath of the Wild, it probably comes with all content, including the DLC. But I imagine
so.
If you just buy the Switch version, then you have to buy the DLC and the upgrade both. Separately. Yeah.
That's what I would assume, but it's you'd hope,
You'd hope, but I didn't see confirmation of that. They didn't mention that.
Yeah.
So
we also don't know if this is going to be the case, because Nintendo offers a lot of DLC for games as an additional perk for having the expansion pass. So this could be the case with all of this stuff. We don't know if that's true or not. A lot of people just suspected that was the case. I'll just play Metroid Prime 4 and I'll have the Switch 2 edition and that'll just be part of my expansion pass, right? Because it came, Splatoon happened with that, with the DLC and stuff. So why wouldn't it happen? And they're doing it with Zelda. So why wouldn't they? We don't know. They only mentioned that being the case with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They didn't mention on any of these that it's not the case, but they also didn't mention that it was. So this is another area where it's just, we have incomplete information.
Yeah, Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon Legends are getting Nintendo Switch Edition updates. I basically said every first party game this year was going to get a Switch Edition update.
Mm-hmm.
All first party games releasing this year. They did announce one for Xenoblade Chronicles X.
But we know there's something in the code about that. So
yeah, we know there's already 60 FPS, so we know it's primed for that Switch Edition update.
That might be related to our next category. I don't know. It wasn't announced there either, but it might be in our next category that we're going to talk about. But let's continue with the edition games. Let's just go through the list. So Mario Party Jamboree is the first one. That's got a whole bunch of DLC basic content, basically.
Yeah, it's DLC content.
With, new features.
Yeah, it's basically DLC that uses the mouse functionality and the Nintendo Switch 2 camera.
So there's like a bunch of new stuff there. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom is going to have high resolution and frame rate, HDR support, and they have something called Zelda Notes that's going to be in the Switch app. So I know everybody hates the Switch app because it was what was forced on us for voice chat. I always thought it was cool for the non-voice chat stuff that was in the apps and really underutilized too.
I feel like
only a few games used it, like Splatoon and stuff used it, but not enough games.
Adding more functionality to it is great. It's weird that this is like exclusive to like, oh, if you buy this upgrade, Switch 2 upgrade for Zelda, then we'll give you this helpful like notes app.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that feels forced. It's like, okay, there's no reason you can't have this work with regular Zelda on Switch, except you just want people to, like, buy shit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a perk they added in, yeah.
Yes.
Kirby and the Forgotten Land. This has got graphics update, frame rate update, and an entire new story mode called Star-Crossed World.
Which I'm interested in. I'm glad for that. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
The one that kind of like blew my mind out though was Metroid Prime 4, which has mouse controls which for a first person game is a big deal. But in addition to that, it's got a quality mode and a performance mode now on Switch 2. And the quality mode is doing straight up 4K 60, which is usually like quality mode is 4K 30 and performance mode is like 1080p 60. But no, their quality mode is 4K 60 and their performance mode is 1080 120. So that's
easier to do when you're dealing with basically Wii U, Xbox 360 level graphics.
You could say that, but I mean, it seems like there's more than just resolution and frame rate bumps that happened in the Switch 2 edition, because that game looked a lot better.
It looked exactly the same as like it looked exactly the same as the trailer.
Was so much better and sharper. The textures were sharper.
I'm sure there's like little notices, but it's the Switch game. It's running at higher resolution.
I like the geometry's not different, but the textures look better and stuff.
Yeah, well, that could just be the result of the 4K. And this was streamed in 4K, so if you're watching a 4K monitor, you will notice that difference in resolution.
I wasn't, and I did.
Yeah.
Pokemon Legends ZA. Again, resolution and frame rate, and now it runs at GameCube Visual Standard.
Oh, please. So, interesting here, they were very vague about that, right? Like, they're very specific with Metroid, and then, like, when they came to Pokemon, they were, like, very, like, oh, yeah, we gave it a frame rate resolution.
The only one they were specific with was Metroid, though. Like, with Zelda, they said the same thing, like, frame rate and resolution improvements, and they didn't say 60, they didn't say anything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the only one that they gave, like, those exact details for was Prime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can tell Prime is, like, a flagship game.
But yeah, Pokemon Legends ZA finally looks like it could run on the GameCube.
But I'm happy for Legends ZA because, I mean, it's probably going to be like much smoother performance on the Switch 2 now. You're probably going to get probably pretty solid 60 FPS out of that. Frame rate wise, probably 1080p, 60 FPS. I don't know, but it's going to run better than on Switch. The Pokemon games on Switch have been kind of rough.
Kinda.
So we appreciate it.
So the next one on here is a bit contentious. It goes along with the prediction I made last week. This wasn't the one I predicted, but I specifically predicted that they would show performance updates on impossible ports. And the one I used to cite was Witcher 3. Instead, what we got was Hogwarts Legacy, which was another impossible port that was heavily downgraded to end up working on the Switch, and now it's coming here. We don't know for sure if this is a Switch 2 edition or if you just have to buy a full new version of the game. There isn't clarity in either direction when it comes to that.
No, there isn't. I watched the thing. Visually, it looks like, and like nothing they said in the trailer led me to believe that this isn't just like a port of the current gen console versions.
Mm-hmm.
So Switch 2, rather than trying to update the Switch 1 version, because this looked like a pretty massive improvement to the Switch 1 version, like more than just like what you would get from just bumping up the resolution.
This is what they should do though with all those impossible ports, basically.
Yeah.
All of those impossible ports should have a patch that basically just gives you like the PS4 version and for like a discounted price, and they just call it a patch. It might be more than a patch on a technical level. It might be more than a patch on a technical level, but that's how it should be priced. That's how it should be released.
Right.
And that's kind of what I predicted with Witcher 3. We didn't see anything for Witcher 3, but Hogwarts Legacy is another Impossible Port game that kind of goes along those same lines. So it's a little contentious that we have it in this category. It could be in a brand new Switch 2 game category. We just don't know.
It's just one of those things,
a lot of
like,
lack of clarity.
Yeah, I would love to have more clarity, and I'm afraid we're probably not going to get that clarity until it launches.
Yeah, probably not. Or, maybe we'll get it from Treehouse if somebody asks the right question or something, Civilization 7. It's got mouse controls. That's the main improvement. Besides that, I'm sure there's performance improvements because apparently it does not run that well on Switch.
Oh, really? It better have performance improvements then, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that goes with the territory.
And again, Civilization 7 is the perfect game to, have mouse controls because obviously it's a PC game.
Yeah.
Being ported. It's one of those games that benefits very heavily from you being able to use the mouse versus trying to, use the controller.
Then we've got 3 games in a row here that were all at last week's Direct. We got Witchbook, Rido Remastered, and Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar. All of those were at last week's Direct.
Also Marvel Cosmic Invasion, Shadow Labyrinth, and No Sleep for Konami Date from the AI Sononium files.
And Tamagotchi Plaza, yeah.
All those games we saw last week, and no surprise, they're going to be on the Switch too.
Yep. And then on top of that, we have Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, which was not at last week's Direct, but is another game that's going to get a patch. A Switch 2 edition.
Yep, gonna be on Switch 2.
So then this next category, we're just gonna go through pretty quickly because it's not really anything interesting. This was not in the Direct, but this was announced information that was released through whatever other means.
Yeah, these are getting performance update patches. From the way they worded it and the way they said it, they're free patches, so they're not as significant as the Switch editions. Clubhouse games, they already showed off in the Direct. They showed off that you could do game sharing with Clubhouse games.
You want to know my main theory on most of these? I think most of these had technical compatibility issues.
That's why
when they were talking about it, and they had to do some rework on them. And while they did it, they just said, "Okay, well, let's just get them performing better.
Let's just get them performing." Yeah,
let's just get all these at 60 or 120 FPS and at a higher resolution and call it a day.
Call it a day, yeah. Because these are games that did not work on Switch 2 out of the box, but they're too important for them to be put on the list and saying, "Oh, we're working on it." Because people really question it if Super Mario Odyssey did not work on their backwards compatible Switch 2 out of the box, right?
Yeah.
You would be okay.
And these games are ARMS, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which was a Wii U game that was ported to the Switch. Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario 3D World, again a Wii U game ported to Switch, but that's also with the Bowser Fury.
Basically, all the mainline Super Mario games, except for Wonder.
Yeah. Clubhouse games, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, that's the remake. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, that was the new one that just came out last year. Game Builder Garage, which is kind of in the vein of Labo, but not requiring any
My understanding is Game Builder Garage is getting mouse support.
That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, another Wii U port. That was a Wii U launch game, actually. Pokemon Scarlet, Pokemon Violet, and Big Brain Academy Brain vs. Brain, which I forgot existed.
Same.
Now we're getting into the big gun. This is the game that opened the show. In my opinion, this is the game. It was the one they opened the show with, and it was the one that blew me away.
This is the one that impressed me the most. And it was the obvious game to open the show with. There could have been no other game to open this Direct with, in my opinion.
It is the direct follow-up to the best-selling Nintendo game of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the new Mario Kart, which they teased back in January when they had the Nintendo Switch hardware teaser.
And that's the only that's the only game we saw in that.
Yeah, we saw this, and now we got all the we got this beautiful trailer.
We got a name.
Yeah, we got a name. Mario Kart World.
Yep.
Which is oh my god. And I was blown away with this because honestly,
it's ambitious. There's just a ton of stuff.
Nintendo could have took Mario Kart 8 and just made more beautiful graphics, 4K.
Thrown in event mode, something, yeah.
Just made more beautiful graphics, 4K 120 FPS, or
New
4K
tracks,
60
yeah.
FPS, new tracks, new racers, call it Mario Kart 9, call it a day.
Yeah.
But, that would have been I'm going to be honest, that would have been kind of disappointing if that
I probably would have triple dipped if they had just added an event mode. If they just made it Mario 8 Deluxe, and they just added like an event mode like was in the DS version or something. That alone, I probably would have rebought the whole fucking game for the third time.
Wouldn't be exciting, but this is like way more ambitious. This is, for the first time ever, this is a fully open world Mario Kart game where all the tracks are connected into one big world. Like with it,
so the tracks don't have laps. They have they're run throughs, but then one track ends where the next begins.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because they mentioned it has the classic Grand Prix mode where you go through 4 or so tracks in a cup, like the classic thing, but they mentioned when the race ends on the first track, you don't stop, you drive to the next track.
Yeah.
It doesn't kick you back to a menu, and then you're waiting to, join the next track. You just drive there.
Yeah. They've also got a free roam mode that basically just lets you, fuck around and have fun.
Yeah, where you're not in a race, you're not competing, so you're just driving around this world and just enjoying yourself. There's a photo mode link
to that. You can, meet up with people and take pictures. I mean, it's...
Which is fantastic, which is amazing. There's another...
That's going to be fun for, learning shortcuts and tricks and shit.
There's another mode where you are just driving through, the entire world, track to track, and trying to, maintain placements until you're ranked out, or until you pass the last track and you win.
It's like a Battle Royale Mario Kart mode.
Yes, which sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. There's all kinds of things in this, all kinds of different races. There's 24 races on a track at one point, I want to say. At one time, you get 24 races on a track. Looking at the trailer, there's all kinds of different new characters that you could play as. There's a cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a cow. There's what are they, those fish bones from Super Mario World?
Yeah.
All kinds of minor characters are playable racers.
I think what really blew me away with this game though is the stuff that just was in the racing that we haven't seen before in a Mario Kart game.
Rail grinding,
wall jumps,
wall jumping.
Oh, that's so fucking cool.
Word. And also
dynamic weather. I called that the second that direct started. I saw the clouds and said, "This game's got dynamic weather."
Dynamic weather and dynamic day and night cycles.
Yeah, I called that immediately. I'm like, oh, this sky looks very different than the sky we saw before.
There's all kinds of things. There's Mario eats a hamburger and he has a new outfit. So you can eat a hamburger, power up, and change your outfit mid-race. Not sure what that does, but that's really cool.
There's also some kind of a question block that you have over your guy, and I guess you just keep tapping the item button and keep getting coins.
There's one point where Birdo drove into the back of this open semi-truck.
That was so cool.
Took control of it.
It was either that, the grinding, or the wall jumping was what really blew me away on this trailer.
Yeah, and the characters too. The characters are so expressive too. In this game.
Yeah, this is a continuation with Mario Kart 8 made a huge improvement in that regard, and they're just taking it even further here.
Yeah, the animations are so dynamic in this game. It's pretty crazy.
We didn't even get the 24 racers.
Yeah.
That was something that was basically people had figured out from the trailer before, but now it's confirmed. 24 racers. That's really cool. It's a launch title, and they're going to have a Mario Kart World specific direct on April 17th at 6 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, to go into more detail. So, man, this is an absolutely huge game. This is going to keep you busy. And I'm going to be honest, based on what I've seen here, I think this is worth the $80.
Yeah, it's you don't want to say that because you want to stand in solidarity with other gamers that are struggling with their pocketbooks, but this is a very ambitious game.
This is a very, this isn't just a sequel to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which they could have done, they could have gotten away with. This is much more ambitious than that. This is very much fitting of a next generation Mario Kart game.
So, be honest, what was your immediate reaction to the next game we're going to be talking here? Drag X Drive. What was your immediate reaction?
My immediate reaction was oh, this is an interesting concept. Can't wait to see how they flesh it out. It looks pretty bare bones, but as a concept, this is pretty cool.
My immediate reaction was robot wheelchair I just burst out laughing. It's just such an absurd combination of things.
It was an absurd. Yeah, I mean, it was like wheelchair basketball is like a real thing, though. Like,
but then you put robots in it.
I'm all for like representation.
Oh yeah.
But
the second you put robots in it, it's like what?
That's the thing. Like, they're like these blank gray ciphers. Like, everything about it looked unfinished.
Yeah, I really wish it had more character to it.
Yeah, like when you go back to like the Switch 1 reveal and you see like the first trailer, the debut of ARMS, like everything is so colorful and has all this personality to it.
And they like introduced characters over time that were always like exciting reveals because they had like such personality and stuff. Yeah,
they had like all this personality. None of that exists here. That's why I thought it was unfinished. They said summer. I was like, what? There's like no personality. There's no character. There's not even like barely any color to it. The arena is like bland.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing with the presentation of this game?
Yeah, it's very weird like that. It's obviously going after kind of like a Rocket League kind of feel. And it's also doing something interesting gameplay-wise with, playing on like motion controls. It seems like I saw somebody mention, and I kind of agree, this looks like that they were making like a Wii Sports game.
Yeah.
For the Switch 2. And this was going to be in it, and then they spun it out into its own game.
Yeah, definitely like feels like that. It's another example, like I told you beforehand, Nintendo was going to find like all kinds of like different uses for the mouse peripheral. It wasn't just going to be for playing Civilization 7.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to just be like the expected uses. It was going to be like they're going to do like unique stuff like this with it. But I just wish this had like more character because the way it looks, it feels like very un-Nintendo in that way.
Yeah. Or like that kind of cheap Nintendo, like, I don't know. You know what this reminds me of is like, if you've played, I know you haven't, but if anybody listening has played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, they have this whole blade system, and your character, you get blades to join your party, and they had all these different character designers making all these different blades that you could collect and stuff, almost like Pokemon-like. You have to kind of collect them all and stuff, and then use them for your character. And by blades, I mean, they're people. They're not like weapons, you know? But one thing that they did is they kind of turned it into like a gacha mechanic, and so you'd get like some rare one that was like designed by some like manga artist in Japan, and it was like really distinct and interesting and stuff. But most of the time you got these really generic blades that just looked like really generic robots. And that was it. And you just got them, and they weren't really named or anything. That's just what they were, you know? That was mostly what you got. And they were kind of just random ciphers that didn't have any personality or anything like that. And it goes with that whole gacha thing. That's what these look like. They look like the generic blades from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is what these look like, which is not great when you don't have anything else. You don't have the more character specific ones aren't there either, you know?
Yeah, that's not great. When I saw like the release date was summer, I was like, how is this a summer game? It doesn't look like anything close to like being a retail product.
Well, it's like you said, wheelchair basketball is a real thing. This would have been a cool opportunity to actually like put those people into a game.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you'd have like real people into this game, and you could kind of make them stylized and cool in the same way that you have like the ramps and stuff and other kind of things that make it a little different. And you could just kind of have added a little bit of personality there, given those people some more representation. It would be cool, but they just went this really generic approach, and I'm just not interested. Same. I guess if you're really into Rocket League, you might like this from a gameplay standpoint.
Yeah, but they didn't really like show anything that like makes me want to play it.
Speaking of things that they haven't shown me that I really want to play, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. Nintendo wants to sell you a tutorial for their system.
Do you want to walk around a virtual Nintendo Switch 2 and read signs that tell you what it does?
Yeah.
And
where are the magnets in my Switch 2? Oh, this is a game?
And do you want to pay Nintendo money for the privilege of that?
This would be really cool as an interactive tutorial included on the system.
This should be, included.
Not even like a pack-in cart, but like built into the system.
Apparently, like, this also has like a bunch of mini games that uses like the mouse, like they showed. But
if we see more of these, I'm sure we're going to see these at one of the tree houses, and maybe we're going to go like completely 180.
It's going to be like, maybe it's going to like be like, oh, there's like much more to this than they showed, but like it's pretty bad showing. this is like, what? Sony included Astro's Playroom with the PS5. Every PS5 comes with that for free.
Yeah.
And that is like a much beefier, more engaging PlayStation tutorial than this.
From what we've seen, at least.
From what we've
to give
seen,
the benefit of the doubt, you know?
Get the benefit of the doubt. I was just scratching my head at this. I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is like...
I thought it was a cool little thing, and then they said paid, and I went,
like, yeah, exactly. That's my reaction. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. This probably, like, comes pre-installed on the Switch. You know, that's neat. And then they said paid. I was like, what? Why would I pay money for this?
Let's start working our way through the massive list of games that showed here. Some of these we can get through pretty quickly, so let's kind of rush our way through a little bit.
Let's rush through, like...
First off, we have the unfortunately named, I've already seen this turned into a joke multiple times now, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition.
It's because your character is the Tarnished, right? I get it.
Yeah, an unfortunate naming.
Elden Ring, this is Elden Ring on the Switch 2. This is the base game plus the DLC Shadow of the Erd Tree in, like, one package.
We knew this was coming. Like it wasn't confirmed. It wasn't directly leaked or anything, but it was just like, this is like a prime candidate for something that was going to come because it was able to run on PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, of course it'll come.
Not like a super demanding game. Hades 2 got announced. Capcom announced Street Fighter 6 for the Switch 2. Interestingly, alongside it, they announced 3 Street Fighter 6 amiibos. So amiibos are not dead. There's also some Zelda amiibos coming out, some new ones.
They were only announced in the Japanese Direct, though, which is weird.
Yeah, so they announced 3 amiibos plus amiibo cards, like a set of amiibo cards for Street Fighter 6, which I thought was interesting. I thought, okay.
We're gonna have to see how these work at I think it's gonna be at one of the Treehouse events. I'm pretty sure I saw it listed as one of the games, so I'm sure they're gonna show what that means, and it might be interesting. Because there's some interesting stuff in Street Fighter 6, like, in the hub. But
it is.
Like, in the hub role.
And that's probably,
game, so.
And Street Fighter 6 is gonna be a launch game, too, so that's probably gonna be one of the games I pick up with my Switch 2, because, like, I still don't have Street Fighter 6 on any other platform, so I'm like, okay, I'll probably pick it up for Switch 2 then. Sounds good to me.
So this next game was throwing us for a loop when we were watching it. Like, anybody watching it knows, like, Will watched this presentation separate from us because he just wanted to kind of watch it and take it on without any distractions. Yes. I watched it with some other people that we chat with regularly, and we were all like, what is this? What is this? Like, at first we were like, is this Xenoblade Chronicles X related? Because it kind of had that look. I think it might have the same character designer. And then we're like, is this, I think one of the ones I thought was like Astral Chain. Is this like Astral Chain 2? And then as it goes on, it's like, no, this clearly isn't. Is it Vanquish? Yeah, like, what is this?
Yeah, it's Daemon X Machina. It's a sequel, Daemon X Machina.
Titanic Scion.
Yes, which looked good.
It's a giant boat on a cheap Toyota.
I haven't played the first Daemon X Machina. I thought, okay, that's
I played the demo, it just wasn't for me. I understand what it is, because it's similar to like Armored Core and stuff, and I know people that are really into those games, but it just isn't for me. But it's cool that it's there, because I know people that really like that type of game, and there aren't really a lot of games that represent that, so.
Then we got, Split Fiction from Joseph Harris.
Natural fit.
Yeah, natural fit for it. Split Fiction, I haven't played it, because, like, you need 2 people to play it, so, like,
yeah,
maybe we can arrange that, but it's been getting, like, really great reviews. Like,
so Split Fiction, I was just about to say, this might be a perfect example for that game share mode, and then I remembered, Split Fiction on every other platform, if you buy it, they give you a second copy.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So, you might not even need that, you know? So it's kind of interesting.
That's kind of interesting. Then EA announced EA Sports FC and Madden NFL.
Do you know what EA Sports FC is? Because I don't. Is that football club or something?
EA Sports Football Club, yeah, it's soccer. It's EA Sport. It used to be FIFA, but like EA doesn't want to pay FIFA for the license anymore, so they just renamed it EA Sports FC.
Yeah, I just had no idea what that was. I just guessed football club, you know, but like
yeah.
Like they didn't bother to say any more than that.
No, they didn't. They assume you know, and apparently, like, after, like, I read, like, EA put out a statement that said, like, these will be, like, feature parity with the other console versions as much as the Switch 2 hardware will allow, was the, like, full statement. So it's not going to be, like, last gen where they're giving you, like, gimped versions.
That's good. I mean, not that I care about them anyways, but...
No, I don't care, but, like, I know people do care. And I know, like, just announcing these games with, like, no information doesn't mean anything considering what EA did on the Switch 1, but, like, that's the statement they put out. So
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 remaster. I believe we got 1 and 2 remaster on the Switch, right?
yes, and
So
we
this
get
is-
this.
3 and 4, they did something cool in this trailer. They put a little fun.
There's a SpongeBob.
They showed that
level.
they could have fun.
Yeah, there's a SpongeBob. level. Apparently, this was already announced for the Switch 1, so we're getting it on Switch 2 as well.
Hitman World of Assassination. So I'm not too versed in Hitman, but what I've heard is that World of Assassination is basically like all of the missions from the various Hitman game, and now that's just what they do. They just kind of update this thing instead of making
they
separate
just
games.
add missions to Hitman World of Assassination, which
Yeah.
is really fun. Then they confirmed that
There is a
the,
Hitman game you can get on Switch on like the cloud thing for their OG
Yes.
Switch. So
yeah, for Cloud, but this isn't Cloud anymore. You don't need Cloud for Hitman anymore. It's going to be
you never need a
Big
cloud,
movie.
especially not in Final Fantasy VII. More on that later.
IO Interactive also announced that their upcoming announced Project 007, which we still don't know much about, or that it's the James Bond game, will also be coming to Switch 2.
That's like literally, it was just like a logo reveal. So like music and like presentation, no gameplay or even a hint of gameplay at all.
Yeah, we don't know anything about Project 007 yet. Bravely Default is getting an HD remaster, the first game for the 3DS. It's going to have mouse control mini games in it.
Have you played Bravely Default?
I haven't.
It's a pretty fun traditional
I've been
RPG, and
wanting
then you
to.
have to repeat it like 8 times.
Which
It's
I don't mind
really
that.
annoying.
If it's fun enough, that doesn't bother me. That's going to be a launch game for Switch 2.
It will when you go like the 8th time you're repeating.
That's going to be a launch game for Switch 2 as well. That's another one that I'm considering buying it with the Switch 2. So
Yeah.
that's like another one I'm thinking about picking
Just be
up.
prepared. Like you'll probably like the game at first, and then you'll get to the point where you have to repeat everything, and you go, "Oh, that's pretty clever," and then it'll do it again, and you'll be like, "That's getting a little annoying," and then it'll happen again, and you'll be like, "Okay, what the fuck?" Yakuza 0 Director's Cut.
Yep, that's coming to Switch. We're finally past the point where, like, Yakuza is too good for Nintendo hardware, right? I guess, like,
They're not
guy
bringing the
behind
right
that-
games, though. Like, why aren't they... The whole series has changed direction. They've had 3 games in kind of like the new sub-series that they're calling Like a Dragon here. It's always been called Like a Dragon in Japan. But those games kind of have like a more of a turn-based system. They're a bit more fun, a little bit more wild. Even, like, Yakuza games are always wild, but these ones are a little bit even more in that direction. And those are the ones everyone's talking about, and instead we're getting fucking 0.
Yeah, give it time.
Give us Like a Dragon, damn it. There's 3 of those games now. Start giving us those.
We're getting a new Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment.
Yeah, this is basically Age of Calamity except for Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, so our third Hyrule Warriors game.
Yep. Deltarune chapters 1 through 4.
Yep,
3 and 4 are new.
Deltarune.
3 and 4 are new. We haven't gotten
Yes.
those yet.
Yeah, Toby Fox released chapters 1 and 2, and then he was talking about releasing 3 and 4. But I guess we're getting 3 and 4 with this now, and this is also a launch game for Switch, too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's neat. For the
Borderlands
Toby Fox
4.
fans. Borderlands 4 is going to launch day and date on Switch 2 with the other versions.
Is this
which
the
was
first-
nice to hear.
Is this the first of its kind that we've come across?
What do you mean?
In that regard, and that it's like a game that isn't out yet on the other systems. It's going to be a day and date.
I think so. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think this is the first one that's going to be, it's not out yet. It's going to be day and date on Switch 2 with the other platforms. Yeah.
Then we got 2 game reveals just sports game reveals that were
It's
only
just
announced.
WWE 2K and NBA 2K. It's like, okay.
Nothing important.
Nothing important for me.
And then the
like,
most hated game in the Direct in North America. Not because of the game.
screen freeze.
Yeah. Survival Kids was a trailer that almost nobody was interested in at all. And then the screen froze on it on the Direct for the North American
Yes.
Direct.
Oh my god, for like 5 minutes. And like the audio was like continuing, so you were hearing the other games getting announced, but you couldn't see them.
Yeah.
You could only see like this frozen screen of Survival Kids.
And eventually, like, they rewound it once they fixed it and started again. And so then we got to
They
see
did.
the actual shit that we wanted to see.
They did like rewind it all the way. So we missed these things. We missed Enter the Gungeon 2, Starseeker Astroneer Expeditions, a big one, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition, which is also launching with Switch 2.
That was my wild card pick.
Yeah, that was your wild card. So you got that.
And it's a
CD
launch game.
CD Projekt Red showing up
Yeah.
for the Switch 2.
That's awesome. That's
That is
so
awesome.
cool. I'm gonna triple dip.
And then Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which is like the end of this trailer is when it caught up.
Yeah.
So
I have to say, again, Final Fantasy VII, nobody needs Cloud.
Your favorite game.
just like you said, Will, nobody needs Cloud.
I know you're buying this day one. I know you are there. It's cool to see it on Switch. It's cool to see like a big mainline Final Fantasy game on Nintendo system again. It's been so long for me.
Just give us a remake of 6 instead.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. But
now, tell me about this game. Do you know about this game? Because I don't. I know nothing about this game.
This is a game that came out like last year for PS5 and Xbox Series. Nitsugami Pathagatis. It's like an action type game from Capcom. I don't know too much about it, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know anything, and it was just a very short, like, highlight reel.
Yeah, it wasn't a highlight reel. Also, in the highlight reel, Hollow Knight Silk Song.
Yeah, can you believe it? We're all wearing clown makeup
people
today.
Have been like, which people are like, every time there's a direct, people are like, oh, Hollow Knight Silk Song is going to be here. And it never shows up, and now it is.
You got 2 seconds in a highlight reel.
It's pretty funny too, because like Microsoft is like so petty that they have to do this. But like after this direct, Microsoft like tweeted out, "Oh, don't forget, Hollow Knight Silk Song will be on Xbox Game Pass day one." It's like, okay.
I'm sure they paid for that, and
I'm sure they paid for that.
Take every opportunity to milk that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Some game called Goodnight Universe, 2 Point Museum,
Bleh.
Wild Hearts S, which I thought was like interesting only because like that game came out for like the PS5 Xbox Series and like apparently like bombed. It didn't do that well. And so
yeah, a lot of people I saw reactions from people were surprised about this one.
Yeah.
They thought this was just kind of discarded and thrown away.
Yeah. Basically, it's a Tecmo Koei. It's like their take on Monster Hunter, their take on like that genre, and it looks interesting. So maybe
Switch is the right system for that. Yep. So like that makes sense.
Maybe I'll find a second life on the Switch too.
Yeah. Puyo Tetris 2S.
Yep.
We don't need
which is also a launch game, which is super cool. I love Puyo. I love Tetris.
There's like really nothing new to get. Just play the first Puyo Tetris. It has everything you need.
It's like poetry though. The first Switch launched with Puyo Tetris, so it rhymes.
This is the third Puyo Tetris. And you only needed the one.
We're getting Fortnite. There, you happy?
No, okay. Actually, I'm very unhappy. I wish that game was purged from existence. Now, Star Wars Outlaws.
Yes, from Ubisoft.
This is another one people expected.
Yeah. Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening Complete Edition.
I've never played a Nobunaga's Ambition game. I know they have an important legacy in gaming, but they
go all the way back. If you remember, just a couple weeks ago, Nintendo uploaded the SNES Nobunaga Ambition games to Nintendo Switch Online.
Yep, that was probably intentional. They wanted to remind people that this is a game series.
Right, yeah.
Well, you didn't get F-Zero, Will, but you got Fast Fusion.
Fast Fusion. Shinen's newest release in the Fast series of games. Now, this is interesting because this is continuing a tradition Shinen had since the Wii U.
Yeah, I think they had one on the Wii.
It's either like the
but it didn't
Wii
launch on it.
No, it didn't launch on Wii.
Yeah, they had one launched on. I don't know if they launched Fast on the Wii U. No, they launched Nano Assault Neo on the Wii U, but they had a Fast game soon after too.
I believe they launched the Wii U with Fast game.
I know they launched with Nano Assault Neo on the Wii U because I got that game. And I got Fast as well, but I think that came out later. I'm not sure. But then they launched a new version of Fast on the Switch.
Yeah, they launched it on Switch, and now they're launching Fast for the launch of the Switch too. So Shinen's cool because like they are always there, like at the beginning of like a new Nintendo system. It's a good
high-speed racer. It's less F-Zero, more like Wipeout.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like exactly like a replacement to F-Zero like people like hope for, but it's still like it's a solid game. I enjoy it. I'm just like seeing that just like makes me happy though because it's like, oh yeah, they're here for another generation of Nintendo.
They're a pretty techie dev, so I also wouldn't be surprised if it's running at like 120.
I saw screenshots. It looks gorgeous. It looks absolutely gorgeous.
This is one I wouldn't be surprised if it runs at like 120, for example. You know, like this is like the kind of developer that would be into doing like techie stuff like that. So it's just cool to have a techie developer like really trying to push the limits of a system. Reanimal
don't have anything to say about that. To be honest.
Arcade Archives 2, Ridge Racer!
Yes! Ridge Racer. I'm happy about this. Not so much for Ridge Racer. The Ridge Racer itself is cool for like the arcade version, but this also means like this is like very specifically labeled Arcade Archives 2, and this means like
second generation,
hamsters moving into like the 3D arcade games, the 3D era. So we're probably gonna get like, man, imagine if we got like the arcade versions of Tekken, or we got like the arcade Soul Calibur, which is different from the Dreamcast version. So many possibilities with this. We could get like if Sega plays along, we could get like the Model 2, Model 3 Sega arcade games that they never ported. Take they accept a Yakuza game.
All those would be cool.
So many possibilities. I'm excited for that.
Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. Really nothing to say.
Nothing to say about that.
I think this maybe should be in the other category, in the Switch2 one, but I don't know. I don't think it was labeled as that. Human Fall Flat 2.
Yeah.
Not too terribly interested. And then you got this little game. Nobody had any attention. Wasn't a big deal at all.
This was kind of a roller coaster of trailer, because sitting there trying to guess what it was, and you can't guess what it is because it's a new IP, but you'll find that out till after. But like, it's like going through and I jokingly said to myself as soon as it came out, I said, Bloodborne 2? Like, I was like,
I made the joke before the
just
direct.
As a joke.
I made that exact joke before the direct started. Totally. I said, anybody got any wild card predictions? And everyone's like, I don't know, I can't think of anything. And I'm like, Bloodborne 2.
Yeah, I said like as a joke, I said Bloodborne 2, and then as the trailer went out, I was like, oh shit, this could actually be Bloodborne 2. Then I saw the From Software logo, and I'm like, this Bloodborne 2? It's happening? What the hell? It got more and more intense.
Yeah, as it went on, I when I watched like reaction videos and stuff, a lot of people were saying like, this isn't Bloodborne, obviously, it's a new IP, but this could very well be a case of like a spiritual successor from the same company just because Sony owns the rights.
It's very much like the setting and stuff is very much like gothic horror instead of the medieval horror of the Souls games.
Yeah, it's got like a little bit of that kind of steampunk with like trains and stuff like that going on.
Yeah, exactly. And then I saw like, you play as a vampire, and like my mind was racing. I was like, and then I got like this thought, I was like, oh, what if this is Castlevania? But I didn't see a Konami logo, so I was like, if that can't be it, because Konami would be involved. And then it's like the Duskbloods, and I was like, cinema. Then the craziest part came out because it said Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. I was like, are you kidding me?
And then there was something else that was kind of slightly hidden, because it said you can find out more information with an interview with the director, Miyazaki.
Yep, it's Hidetaka Miyazaki's newest game. The head of FromSoft, because he's not directing Night Rain. He's not involved in Night Rain. Mm-hmm. He's doing this exclusively for Switch 2, to me, that is insane that Nintendo somehow got Miyazaki's newest game as an exclusive for their system. Yeah. I was like, okay. And then my hype kind of deflated because like I found out like it's a multiplayer PvP versus E 8-player game where you're like joined up in the fact. I don't know, it could still be fun. It's just like I was imagining Bloodborne, this epic action horror RPG where like you run around, you fight hard enemies, you build up your character. And apparently it's not that kind of game. But it's fine.
Well, you have to wait for the interview.
Yeah, I have to wait for the interview.
And then you'll get some answers. And hopefully maybe some more footage or something will come out around then. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe, yeah.
Next up, we got Kirby Air Riders. Everybody I'm watching on the reacts like immediately sees like the Kirby star and they're like, Smash Brothers? Smash Brothers? Smash Brothers? Like fucking rabid fan base for that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, to be fair, it was very much a Masahiro Sakurai trailer. Yeah. And I mean, knowing, like, he's only been doing Smash Brothers games since, like, for, like, a long time. So,
I'm
like,
so happy it's not Smash.
When you see when you see a Masahiro Sakurai trailer, you're kind of like, your first thing you go to is, like, Smash.
I'm so sick of Smash. I'm so glad he's doing something that's not Smash.
I'm glad he's taking a break from Smash. I am. I'm not sick of Smash. I think a lot of, like, love and attention goes into Smash. A lot of work goes into it. I appreciate it. I
think we're on the verge of there not being much love for it anymore, though. We're on the verge of him going like, oh, just fucking put another one out.
But this is interesting because this is a thing I wasn't expecting to come back. Sakurai's returning to Kirby, first of all. This is Kirby is a character Masahiro Sakurai personally created when he was at HAL Laboratory. The first game he directed was Kirby's Dream Land. He created the character out of whole cloth, and he has not been with HAL Laboratory or doing anything involving Kirby for a long time. The last Kirby game Sakurai directed was the original Kirby's Air Ride on the GameCube. And that was the last game he directed while he was at HAL Laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is kind of like a homecoming for Sakurai, right? And so he's coming back to do Kirby Air Riders, a sequel to Air Ride.
Mm-hmm. And it looks great.
Yeah, it looks
very,
great.
Very pretty, very green and flowery.
Yep, very colorful, which a Kirby game should be. Full disclosure, I never played Air Ride at the time.
I have not either. I played Kirby games, but not Air Ride.
Yeah, I haven't played Air Ride. It got a bad rap back when it came out. IGN kind of shat all over it, and then
this makes it even a better chance because it's Sakurai's chance at redemption.
Right? Yeah.
But enough about Kirby's Air Riders. Let's move on to the last game of the show, because that one everybody thought was going to be Mario.
Oh yeah, people kind of convinced themselves the new 3D Mario would show up at this Direct. It has to, be Mario, right? Because the last 3D Mario came out in 2017, right?
To be fair, Nintendo doesn't really announce, who's making games a lot of times, unfortunately. But This game has EAD Tokyo written all over it.
Oh yeah, the graphical style and stuff, you could tell. This is the Mario Odyssey team.
Yeah.
100%. You can instantly tell that. And the fact that, when you look at it instantly, because they don't show Donkey Kong right away. So if you look at the environments, they look like Mario Odyssey environments. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of oh, is this Mario? And then oh, wait.
Then the real hook of the game comes into focus.
Yeah,
which is the destruction.
Yeah, it's so cool. The way they have destroying the environment, he could punch down and dig into the ground. He could break rocks in front of him or pick up entire platforms.
Rip up a rock out of the ground and use that. Yeah, it's crazy. And
they're
fast,
really
too.
They're really utilizing Donkey Kong's size and his strength for the gameplay.
I heard people saying oh, that's the follow-up finally to Donkey Kong 64, and I'm that's not at all what this is. This is the follow-up to Jungle Beat, if anything.
Yeah, this is nothing like Donkey Kong 64. This is its own thing.
If anything, this is the follow-up to Jungle Beat, because Jungle Beat was the first game that EAD Tokyo made before they got involved with Mario. And it was a very fast-paced, frenetic Donkey Kong game where you just moved very quickly and through the environments, and that had the gimmick of the bongos and stuff. But even besides that, it was just a very fast-paced, quick-moving ape game, and that's what we're seeing here, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely what we're seeing here. I'm super excited for this. This is coming out in July, which is crazy.
That surprised me. That was probably the biggest surprise from this game. Once I saw it and stuff, I'm okay, so this is the holiday game.
Oh, so yeah, that's what I thought too. I was this is December. No, it's July. I was what? This is basically you've already finished.
Yeah.
I was oh, okay.
Donkey Kong Bananza is the name, by the way.
This is the other game that I have that's I'm super excited to get because it looks fun. It's been so long since Donkey Kong has had his own 3D platformer game. It's been way overdue, actually. In my opinion, this has been overdue. And I'm glad that we're doing this instead of going right next to the next Mario, because as much as I love Mario and stuff, 3D Mario's happening. It will come. It 100% certainty. It's okay if it doesn't happen right away.
Yeah, this is Mario adjacent. It's still good.
Yeah, it's still good.
Yeah.
It's still good. The Mario game's still happening. I'm perfectly fine waiting longer for that one.
Well, let's go through now. Let's just go through this pretty quickly, because we don't need to. We've already talked about pretty much all of these games. Yeah. Let's talk about what the launch lineup is, because this is a big launch lineup.
This is much better, by the way, preference, much better than Switch 1's launch lineup right off the bat.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of it's the best aspect of the Wii U lineup, which actually had a lot of good third-party games that were coming late, you know? But the problem with the Wii U is it just didn't have really much in the way of of like first party goodness, you know? Whereas like Switch had like the one really big first party blowout game and a lot of games coming soon afterwards but had like almost no third party support.
Right. Oh yeah.
So this is kind of like the best of both worlds in that direction, and then multiply, like even more so. So it's crazy lineup: Mario Kart World, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, Street Fighter 6, Split Fiction, Hogwarts Legacy, Hitman World of Assassination, Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster, Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, Deltarune Chapters 1 through 4, with 3 and 4 being new, Civilization 7, Survival Kids, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition. Like I said, I'm triple dipping on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess, Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S, Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening Complete Edition, Fast Fusion, Fortnite, Arcade Archives 2 Ridge Racer, and the Switch 2 editions of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That's like covering all your genre bases.
Yeah, that's basic. Yeah, you got racing, you got RPG.
I guess you don't have a first-person shooter. Well, I mean, you can play Cyberpunk as a first-person shooter.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you got fighting games here. You got like a strategy game, puzzle game here. You got your Fortnite. You got something for everybody.
And you got Nintendo's biggest franchise leading the pack.
So, I mean, yeah, this is a fantastic launch lineup. I think this is definitely a good mix of, like, first party, and, like, they really got, like, the third party support this time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what the Switch 1 was missing, because the Switch 1's launch lineup, the third party support was Puyo Puyo Tetris and, Skylanders. I guess that's about it.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. The final segment, before we wrap this up. Last week we made predictions. So we're going to run through the predictions and see how accurate we are. We're not counting up points or anything because that just takes too much work and we're trying to get through this podcast and finish up.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll just go through this like real quick. Like
we'll just say what we predicted and what it was. Release date, I predicted June 6th. Will predicted June 20th. Nick and Mike predicted May 2nd. Squid predicted just June generally. It's coming June 5th. I was a day off. Price. I predicted, or pretty much all of us predicted $399.99. Squid predicted $400, so he predicted 1 penny more. He was playing by Price is Right rules.
I'm not going to count that as different, but
I just wanted to make that joke.
We were off $450.
Yeah, $449.99, and then $499.99 for the bundle that includes Mario Kart Worlds. How many SKUs and SKU details? Most of us predicted 2 SKUs, just different colors.
Yeah,
Nick was the only one that predicted differently. He said 1 SKU, 256 gigabytes internal storage with micro SD express expandable storage.
Yep. We all got those wrong because we were right about 2 SKUs. We were wrong about what they contain because, like, the 1 SKU was a pack-in.
Just has a pack-in. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's the only difference.
Yeah.
And it's just Switch Online.
Should note that Shoulder was, Nick, also known as Shoulder, was right on with the 256 gigabytes and the micro SD express as well.
Yes.
Which none of us included on ours. Like, we didn't not include it, we just didn't include it at all, you know?
Yeah, we just didn't include it all. Nintendo Switch Online, we all guessed GameCube looking at this.
Yeah, some of us guessed different things. Nick, Mike, and Squid all guessed GameCube. They got it dead right. Will, you guessed GameCube, Saturn, and then later on Wii, I think you said. GameCube.
It feels like Wii goes hand in hand with GameCube, but yeah, that didn't happen.
I guessed GameCube and Dreamcast, and I had a whole theory about game streaming, which we ended up getting some kind of a weird game streaming mechanic with the game sharing, but it had nothing to do with the NSO stuff.
Yeah, the NSO looks like it's going to work the same as everything else.
C button, what's it going to be for?
You got it right. You said voice chat.
I said voice chat, community features. You said activities, community hub. That's also correct, basically.
Yeah, technically.
Nick and Mike said a communicate feature, social media, like live streaming your games. That's pretty dead right. They got that really well.
Yeah, Squid got it wrong. He said
Squid got that wrong one. He said a cast button to stream the system wirelessly or something to do with the mouse. Nope. Other new functionality. There's a lot of things, that ended up happening, but things that I guessed correctly, was the mouse tracker. We all kind of knew that was going to be a thing. New haptic features. There is something new. They didn't really display it.
They did mention improved 3D rumble.
Yeah.
But they didn't, elaborate.
I also guessed anti-drift control sticks and RT and DLSS. They just didn't mention any of that.
They did not mention drift. If there's anything to prevent drift or any new tech in the
they just haven't told us. Yeah,
we're just gonna have to find out when people get their Switch 2s and open them up.
We'll see when Digital Foundry breaks it down.
Yeah, exactly.
You guessed DLSS, same thing we just said. Mouse functionality that was on like mine was, and you said in creative ways, and that wheelchair basketball game definitely falls into that range. Nick and Mike guessed MouseCon. They said vastly improved gyro over Switch 1. That's yet to be seen. And they said more in tune with IR aiming was on the Wii. Again, yet to be seen. Squid, he said probably just a Switch 1, but with the mouse and magnetic locks. I think there was a bit more than that. Mm-hmm. Cross-platform and backwards compatibility details. I said backwards compatibility with upgrades through selected patches. And I cited Metroid Prime 4 and Witcher 3. I think I got it pretty much right, except there wasn't Witcher 3. Instead, like I mentioned, the Harry Potter game is kind of like the parallel to the Witcher 3. I wanted an impossible port in there.
I feel like I pretty much got this right. Full backwards compatibility, minimal exceptions, optional patches for games, which the patches are optional. You can do that. You got to pay for them. All first party 2025 Switch games enhanced. I was wrong about that because technically they didn't announce anything for Xenoblade, but I think I'm going to end up being right about that.
Yeah, leaks and tech details from that game that have come out kind of pushed in that direction already. So yeah. Nick said optional patches for Switch 2 performance and fidelity enhancements. Correct. Mike said backwards compatibility enhancements limited, no huge gains. I think there kind of are pretty huge gains in some of these.
I think so, yeah.
And he said cross-gen for Prime 4 and indies like Silksong. Don't know nothing about indies came up with cross-gen, but Prime 4 is, you can buy the Switch 2 edition, so kind of.
Is Silksong even still going to be on Switch 1 at this point?
I don't know.
We don't know. It wasn't...
It's going to be a Switch 2 edition game.
It was at this and a sizzle reel, but it wasn't at the Switch 1 Direct last week, so...
Yeah, and Squid said backwards compatibility with few exceptions. He said RIP Ring Fit. Ironically, Ring Fit's still going to work on it. You just need to use your old Joy-Cons. He said possible patches for visuals, doubt many. That's pretty much wrong. There's a lot. And he said Switch 1 and Switch 2 carts. That is the case, because they are making Switch 2 editions that are separate retail copies, so...
They are.
Game announcements. We each made 5 picks for game announcements. I said Chrono Trigger HD 2D. Nope. Metaphor ReFantasio. Nope.
Also nope. Yeah,
3D
surprised.
Mario. Nope. New Mario RPG collab with Square Enix. Nope. And Monolith Soft's next, not Xenoblade Chronicles. Nope. I didn't get a single one there.
You're batting 0 there.
I was swinging for the fences on that one though, so.
Okay, I'm a jerk though, because I played it safe, so I said Mario Kart 9, yes, obviously. Final Fantasy 7 Remake, yes. That did happen. Halo, no. Dragon Quest 12, no. Hollow Knight, yes.
Surprisingly, nothing new though.
Yes, surprising, yeah. So hey, I got most of that correct.
Mike just agreed with what Nick put with one exception. Nick said Metroid Prime 4, yes. New Mario Paint, nope. Mario Kart, yes. Call of Duty, surprisingly no. And he said Doom Dark Ages, also surprisingly no. Mike just said Elden Ring instead of Doom Dark Ages, and he was right on that one. Squid said Fire Emblem, nope. 3D Mario, nope. Kirby, kind of. Kirby Air Ride, if you got that.
Yeah,
Cyberpunk
Kirby.
2077, yes.
Yes.
Animal Crossing,
no. Too early for Animal Crossing.
Launch games. He said predict 3 games that will be at launch. I predicted Mario Kart 9, Metroid Prime 4, and Elden Ring. Mario Kart 9, known now as Mario Kart World, was there. Metroid Prime 4 is there, but was not a launch game. And Elden Ring is not a launch game either, right?
It's not announced for launch, no.
It was there, but it wasn't launched. Yeah. You said Mario Kart 9, casual first-party minigame collection that focuses on mouse. I guess that's true with the weird tour thing, I guess.
Yeah, the tour thing is a mouse minigame fest. That was the bulk of what they showed. Yeah. So, yes.
We'll find out more about that in the next 2 days. You'll be proven right, tomorrow or the next day, I guess, on that one. And, Resident Evil 4 Remake, no. Nick and Mike both said Metroid Prime 4, again, not a launch game, was there though. Mario Paint, again, not there. And Mario Kart, yes. Squid said not 3 major titles at launch. He said only Mario Kart. He said Prime somewhere in the launch window and a tech demo for the mouse. He was right kind of about the tech demo of the mouse in the same way you were right about it. He was right about Mario Kart, and he's right that Prime isn't a launch game, but could be the launch window.
Could be.
It should be. I mean, launch window you could pretty much count as the
still don't have a date for Prime. Maybe they'll give a date for Prime at Treehouse.
They still said 2025, and I think the launch window pretty much extends to the end of the year.
I'm not going to be that generous. I'm not going to be that generous. Launch window's like 3 months.
Well, he did specifically say not launch day, that it would be launch window afterwards. So I think he gets some credit there, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Wild long shot prediction. I got mine. Cyberpunk 2077 Complete Edition.
Oh, yep, you jerk.
Yeah, sounds like something that maybe wouldn't be a long shot, but like I was just started doubting that, you know, because PS4 and Xbox couldn't handle like the DLC for Cyberpunk and could barely handle Cyberpunk, you know? I
did get mine, which is to be expected. It's the life of an F-Zero fan. But neither did Nick, Mike, or Squid, so haha. No.
Yeah. You put F-Zero SX, didn't happen, unfortunately. I would have loved that. Nick put Zelda Ocarina of Time remake, and he said it would be the final announcement. Nope. Mike said Monolith Soft's rumored action-adventure gets a trailer. I had that as a different prediction in a different category. We both missed that one. And Squid said Kid Icarus Uprising HD, which I'm actually kind of surprised. I would have expected that over what we got with Kirby's Air Ride as a Clock Rise game.
Same. Maybe like Kid Icarus just didn't sell that well or something.
Yeah.
It's like,
I don't think Kirby's Air Ride did either.
or Sakurai like returning to Kirby made more sense. I don't know.
Yeah. But that's it for our predictions. And that leaves only to say what we're going to be doing next week. Next week, we are going to be talking about the new Netflix limited series Adolescence. It is a 4-episode series. It is currently up on Netflix. It's a British series. It's pretty interesting, and we're going to be discussing that next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can also follow us with those same handles on Blue Sky. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up a container story for any of our podcast episodes, scroll down to the bottom paragraph. You'll find all the links to our social accounts, our RSS feed, our SoundCloud page, all that stuff's there. You can also subscribe to our podcast through your favorite podcast line of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of our podcast, as well as additional content, is available on our YouTube channel. Again, you can get there by going to our website, thetotalscreen.com. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Night. Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.